Welcome to Crime Podcast's Twisted Love Series, Episode 30.
Oh, wow. Episode 30 already.
I know, right? Time flies when you're exploring the dark side of human nature.
It really does. So today we're diving into a case.
A case that sends chills down your spine.
It's the Chandan Kumar acid attack case from 2015.
A stark reminder that love can be twisted.
And that obsession can have devastating consequences.
This isn't just about a crime.
This is about understanding the deeper currents that run beneath the surface.
The societal and psychological factors.
That can push someone towards such a horrific act.
So let's start by understanding Chandan Kumar.
Who was this man?
Paint us a picture of him.
Well, Chandan was a 24-year-old shop assistant.
Living in Patna, Bihar.
Described as quiet and introverted.
Almost like he blended into the background.
But beneath that quiet exterior,
There's a pattern of behavior.
a tendency to fixate on people he admired.
Almost to a point of obsession.
And in this case, his obsession led him to Sunita Mishra.
Tell us about Sunita.
She was the complete opposite of Chandan.
A vibrant 21-year-old college student.
Full of life, ambition, dreams for the future.
Their paths crossed.
They had a casual acquaintance. Nothing more.
But in Chandan's mind,
He saw something more,
he misinterpreted her friendliness
her open nature,
as a sign of something deeper.
and that's where his
She
admiration,
began to warp into something unhealthy.
an obsession.
It started subtly,
He'd be seen at places she frequented.
almost like he was trying to orchestrate chance encounters,
He started following her routine.
learning her movements,
It's hard to say if Sunita noticed at first.
or if she just dismissed it,
As harmless.
or maybe just a little bit odd.
But as his obsession grew,
His actions became bolder,
he finally confessed his feelings.
laying his heart bare.
But for Sunita,
It was a firm no.
she wasn't interested.
She was asserting her right to choose.
To define her own path.
But for Chandan,
This rejection was devastating.
it wasn't just a personal setback.
It was a blow to his ego.
His pride.
He couldn't handle it.
He couldn't process the rejection.
And that's where his obsession,
It took a dangerous turn.
it morphed into resentment,
Blame.
anger,
He started to see Sunita
as the source of his pain.
as the one who had wronged him.
And that's when things escalated.
March 14, 2015.
Sunita was walking to college,
Just another ordinary day.
but Chandan was waiting for her.
He intercepted her on a quiet street,
Witnesses describe a heated confrontation,
Chandan demanding that Sunita reconsider.
pleading with her.
But she stood her ground
And that's when he snapped.
in a fit of rage.
He threw acid on her face,
And then he fled
leaving her there.
in unimaginable pain.
It was a premeditated attack.
He had purchased the acid days before.
This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment act.
This was planned,
Calculated.
fueled by his wounded ego.
And a desire for revenge.
It's a chilling thought
That someone could be driven to such extremes.
by something as simple as rejection.
This case highlights the dark side of human nature.
The potential for love to turn into something monstrous.
When obsession takes over,
And reason is lost.
thankfully,
Chandan didn't get away with his crime.
the Patna police responded quickly.
They apprehended him.
And during his interrogation,
He confessed,
he admitted to the attack.
driven by anger and humiliation.
He couldn't deny his guilt.
The evidence was overwhelming.
Eyewitness accounts.
The acid bottle traced back to him.
His own confession.
It was an open and shut case.
The trial began later that year,
It drew a lot of attention.
highlighting the issue of acid attacks in India.
This wasn't just a personal tragedy.
It was a societal problem.
The prosecution presented a strong case.
Focusing on the premeditation,
The planning involved.
Chandan's defense tried to argue
That it was a crime of passion.
a result of emotional distress.
But the evidence contradicted this claim.
He had bought the acid days before.
He had planned this.
The court saw through his defense.
And in early 2016,
Chandan was convicted
of attempted murder.
and causing grievous harm,
He received a life sentence
a just punishment.
for a horrific crime.
But what about Sunita?
How did she cope?
With such a horrific experience,
The physical pain,
the emotional trauma,
the scars.
it's hard to imagine.
But Sunita,
She refused to be defined by this attack.
she showed incredible resilience.
She underwent multiple surgeries,
A long and arduous recovery process.
but her spirit remained unbroken,
She's an inspiration.
a true testament to the strength of the human spirit.
But she didn't just survive.
She thrived.
She didn't retreat from the world.
She embraced it
She turned her pain.
into a powerful force for change.
She became an advocate,
For acid attack survivors,
working tirelessly to raise awareness,
to fight for justice.
to prevent others from suffering the same fate.
She's an incredible woman.
And her story,
Is a beacon of hope.
in the face of darkness,
But it also forces us
to confront the uncomfortable truth,
that these kinds of attacks
are not isolated incidents
they are a symptom,
of a deeper societal problem.
a problem we need to address,
If we want to create a world
where everyone feels safe,
and respected,
regardless of gender,
this is just the beginning of our deep dive
into this complex case.
and the broader issues it raises
So join us,
as we continue to explore
the dark side of obsession,
and the fight for justice,
in a world.
where love can sometimes be twisted.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion here.
Yeah, trying to understand what led Chandan down this dark path.
What makes a person capable of such violence?
Right, we talked about obsession.
But there's more to it than that.
You mentioned societal norms,
Uh-huh. How certain expectations
especially around masculinity.
can create this breeding ground for violence.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that connection.
Well, think about it.
How boys are raised,
To be strong,
dominant,
in control,
and then rejection
especially by a woman,
is seen as this huge threat.
to their masculinity.
So it's not just a personal blow.
It's an attack on their identity
And in some cases,
that can trigger a violent response
it's like they're trying to reclaim that power.
through aggression.
Exactly. And the Chandan Kumar case,
It's not unique.
it's a reflection of a much larger problem.
The societal problem.
So we're not just talking about individual pathology.
No, we're talking about systemic issues.
Deeply ingrained beliefs
About masculinity.
and the acceptance of violence against women.
It's a complex issue.
So where do we even begin to tackle this?
Well, I think education is key.
Starting early.
Teaching young people about healthy relationships,
Respect consent.
challenging gender stereotypes
Redefining what it means to be a man
in a way that doesn't involve dominance.
or control.
Exactly. And promoting emotional literacy
Giving men the tools
to process their emotions,
in healthy ways.
especially rejection.
Yeah, because let's face it,
Rejection is a part of life,
we all experience it at some point.
and learning to cope with it
Without resorting to violence.
is crucial.
And of course, access to mental health resources.
Absolutely. Removing the stigma
Encouraging people to seek help.
when they're struggling.
Because often
There are warning signs
patterns of behavior
that might indicate someone is at risk.
of becoming violent
So recognizing those red flags,
is so important.
things like obsessive behavior,
Stalking.
an inability to accept no.
Escalating anger or aggression. If we see these signs,
We need to take action,
reach out for help.
whether it's for the individual exhibiting those behaviors.
Or for potential victims.
It's about creating a culture of intervention
Where we don't just stand by.
and watch.
We speak
But
up.
we get involved
We take collective responsibility.
for the safety of our communities.
And let's not forget
About the survivors.
the victims of these horrific attacks.
They need our support
To heal.
to rebuild their lives.
We talked about the physical and emotional scars.
But there's also the social stigma,
The isolation.
the shame,
It's crucial to create communities of support.
where survivors feel safe,
Understood.
valued,
Sunita's story is a powerful example
of resilience.
of turning pain into purpose.
She didn't let this attack define her.
She became an advocate,
A voice for others,
but her journey is unique.
and we need to recognize that.
Every survivor's path to healing is different,
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
and healing is a process.
It takes time,
Patience.
support.
Throughout this conversation,
I keep coming back to this question of empathy.
how do we cultivate empathy?
In a world that often feels so divided, so polarized,
It's a tough question.
especially in a case like this,
Where the perpetrator's actions.
that seems so incomprehensible.
So how do we even begin to empathize?
It's not about condoning the violence,
Or excusing it?
but it's about trying to understand
The factors that contributed to it?
the underlying
The
trauma,
mental health issues.
the societal pressure.
By understanding those factors
We can start to address them.
on a broader scale,
Create a society
where fewer individuals feel so desperate,
so isolated.
so driven to violence.
Exactly. It's about recognizing
The interconnectedness of our lives
and understanding that individual actions
are often shaped by these complex forces. This case is a stark reminder
of the importance of empathy
of understanding
and of working together.
to create a safer, more just world. This deep dive into the Chandan Kumar acid attack case has really been eye-opening.
It's a stark reminder of the work we still need to do.
To create a world free from gender-based violence.
We've talked about societal norms, empathy, the need for systemic change.
But I think a lot of our listeners are probably wondering,
What can I do?
Exactly. What can we as individuals do to make a difference?
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by these big issues.
To think our actions are just a drop in the ocean.
But I truly believe that even small acts can create a ripple effect.
So where do we start?
Well, I think it begins with awareness.
Educating ourselves.
Understanding the root causes of gender-based violence.
And learning about the resources available to support survivors.
There are so many incredible organizations out there doing amazing work.
And supporting them.
Whether through donations, volunteering, or simply spreading the word.
Is a really tangible way to make a difference.
Absolutely. And it's also crucial to challenge those harmful attitudes.
The ones we see in our everyday lives.
In our families, our friend groups, our workplaces.
If you hear someone making a sexist joke,
or dismissing a woman's experience,
don't be afraid to speak up.
It's about creating a culture where violence against women is simply not tolerated.
And that starts with each of us holding ourselves and others accountable.
You're absolutely right. And we can also support survivors directly.
By listening to their stories,
Believing them,
and offering support without judgment.
Remember, there are hotlines, support groups, counseling services available.
All dedicated to helping survivors heal and rebuild their lives.
It's a journey and it takes time.
Patience and unwavering support.
And on a broader scale,
we can advocate for policy changes.
Contact your elected officials, support legislation that promotes gender equality.
Demand justice for survivors.
Because change happens when enough people raise their voices.
And I think it's important to remember.
In the midst of all this.
To take care of ourselves, too.
Especially when engaging with such heavy topics.
Find healthy coping mechanisms, connect with supportive people.
And don't hesitate to seek professional help if you need it.
This deep dive into the Chandan Kumar acid attack case has been incredibly insightful.
It's a story that stays with you.
A reminder that we can't turn a blind eye to these issues.
It's a call to action.
For all of us.
To create a world where everyone feels safe and respected.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
And remember, every action, no matter how small, can make a difference.
Keep learning, keep speaking out, and keep fighting for a better tomorrow.
And if you or someone you know is experiencing violence,
please reach out for help.
You're not alone.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel for more deep dives into fascinating and sometimes challenging topics.
Until next time.
Stay curious, stay safe, and keep those critical thinking caps on.